Chapter 2, Finding Gratitude.
Human beings who are always, top of the food chain and trying to be, cutting edge, we don't need capitalism like it is anymore. Because really, what is it helping? It's not helping us at all. It's really not.
Bad news. We hear it all the time, now more than ever, as our country grieves the changes it's been forced to make during this COVID-19 pandemic. Although this has been an incredibly difficult time for so many of us throughout the nation, there are always people who are shining a light on the silver linings that can be found even in dark times. Today, I decided to have a conversation with my good friend Denise Sandoval, a teacher based in Los Angeles, California, who has also managed to find that sliver of positivity, during this difficult time. Denise and I talked about the good habits and mindsets she sets every single day to make the most of this time now, her perspective as an educator on how the country should move forward, and what she has seen people do to survive during such a trying time. I'm extremely excited for all of you to hear what she has to say, so let's get started. We already know about all of the negatives that the pandemic has brought out, not only with like our healthcare system and like with the racial inequality in our healthcare system and the way that our just social systems are run, police reform, all of those things. But I feel like the news is always plagued with the bad stuff, and you can look it up anytime you want. So I just kind of want to talk about like some positive things that maybe you have noticed that has come out from this situation.
The pandemic specifically.
Well, yeah, well, like pandemic induced, I guess.
hmm I mean, truthfully, like I feel like the number one thing, and it's not like generically true 100% of the time, but I think that mostly everyone has experienced this to some degree. It's like we've really had to bunker down with the people closest to us, like in our closest circles, and really give them quality time that we never did before. Because mostly, and selfishly, because we were all like tragically depressed, just like not being able to literally leave our homes, feeling imprisoned. And like, I think it's really beautiful. Like, that's a really nice thing that has come out. It's like the family, and not necessarily like mom, dad, brother, sister family, but like even like your close friends. Like, you just really came to rely on talking, checking in. How are you doing? Let's have a Zoom hangout. Like when even like when we hang out, sometimes not even quality time. If you're out drinking or at a bar, you're talking to other people. And like look what we've had to do. We've had to really focus on each other. Like that's pretty nice, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you in the sense that like you're forced to like have to actually focus on the person when you like talk to them, and also dedicating like that time for the people
Yeah.
too, because now that you're not able to, like you said, have distracting activities and things like that,
hmm
you focus on like what, really, what is it Marie Kondo says, sparks joy.
Sparks joy, yeah. It sparks joy, keep it.
But I guess on the other
Bless
end
you.
too, like I did see a statistic yesterday that divorce rates went up 39%. So
That's my other thing about it. Like I really feel like people just need like if you really actually work even harder in those situations to really like listen to each other, I don't even think that would have happened. You know what I mean? People just need counseling through it. Like how do we actually listen to each other and work through our problems instead of just being overwhelmed by it and getting divorced? I don't know.
but I think the other like part of that too though is just like it again, like the way that the pandemic has like highlighted the systemic issues that we have. I
Mm,
think it also brought about like a lot of personal issues that we have too, in the
good
sense
point.
that a lot of people were settling or just like with partners that maybe didn't necessarily fulfill them
True.
in a way, and that like having to contend with that really, I mean, I'm presuming, I haven't done any research
Yeah.
necessarily, but like,
No, makes sense.
okay, so many
That'd
people,
be tough.
huh?
That'd be tough actually to
Yeah,
realize during the pandemic too, because that's
especially during the earlier months too, when we literally
yeah, it
like
was
could
hard.
not leave. Like now it's a
Yeah.
little bit more chill, and like
Yeah.
you're able to go, well, I guess not this weekend, but you're able to go to the
Mhm.
beach and things like that and have some sort of reprieve, and people are going back to work. But like
Mhm.
in March and April, when it was just like no
No
way.
one was out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so many people are saying that the normal that we had before was like not working and going back to it would be disastrous. And you're a teacher. So, of course, like having one of the most vital jobs in a society for people to thrive, how do you see the role of technology impacting primary education in this country moving forward?
I have like the opposite view of everyone else that's excited to like for technological advances just because like there hasn't been enough time, and it's something I feel really strongly about. There hasn't been enough time to do real research on like actual impacts of technology on young minds. So it's really scary to me. It's really scary because we've never done screen time at my school. Like we have one iPad for the teachers and it stays in the closet, like to play music off of. It's like zero screen time at all. And it's because like even up until like 8, 9, 10, you shouldn't even really be on a screen more than like 40 minutes a day. And that's like even a TV screen. And I know like we were all raised on TV and we're fine, but it's so different because now it's like the like iPads are so close to your face, phones are so close to your face, like and just it's so much more of it. So I'm really nervous to see actually what comes of technology in the classroom to help us move forward because it's going to have to be some supplement of technology to keep everyone, that's what they're saying, to keep everyone minimally like limit everyone's contact, I guess. But I'm hopeful that like yeah, all the tools that we have are amazing. Zoom has been, really good, I think. We've been holding all those Zoom circles and kids actually do pay attention over Zoom for preschool, which is like mind blowing. These 3-year-olds are here like paying attention, following the rules of our classroom. So I know it'll work. I'm just concerned for the health of everyone.
Like
Really.
the physical health of like having the strain on your eyes and things like that.
It's only 2 studies I've seen so far, but 2 studies literally
Mhm.
showed that kids who used a phone, I'm talking kids 2 years old, so tiny babies, some people call them babies, 2-year-old kids having more radiation on their brain that young already, just because of like screen time close to their face. That's how sensitive and like malleable their minds are that young. Well, ours are too, but like theirs are even more sensitive. And these phones actually do give off radiation. Like if you read like the Apple whatever licensing says don't hold it near you, which makes no sense.
I actually didn't realize that. Don't you have to like hold
Yeah.
the phone to your face to like talk
That's
in it?
why when everyone hates on those people that speak on speakerphone, I'm like, at least they're not having it in their ears, like literally next to their brain. You know what I
I'm one of
mean?
those people that speaks on speakerphone. I don't
Yeah,
care.
me too.
I don't have
I
private
don't
conversations.
everyone can join in with me. I love to hear everyone's
You can
opinion.
hear the mess that is my life. Oh my gosh. But
That's
I
why I
mean,
love you, honestly.
but I mean, honestly though, there is going to be a much more integral part of like technology just in everyday life. I mean, moving forward, I think just because
Yeah.
I have this like fear of this like Wall-E-esque dystopia, but I think that it's more of a reality than some people would like to think. Um,
Definitely.
so the fact that you're like not excited about it as an educator, that's a little scary, I think.
I just want everyone to like we don't need it as much really, do we? Right. I mean some for some problems like environmental justice and like, different things that do need more technology to help solve issues. I understand it, but like I just don't feel like that's necessarily the right path to take with education. These kids are too young for that. We can make our own decisions to radiate our brains, and that's my choice. Like, let me die of it. But like, I wouldn't do that to a child. I
So
don't know.
then I guess in your ideal like world, how would you go about, I mean, I know that's like a very like loaded question in the sense that like
Yeah,
there's like different systems and it's like a whole process, but just like a general idea of like what you think is like the most important thing when considering teaching children that are so young.
truthfully, and this sounds so like I tell people this and they think I'm crazy, but like getting back to basics. Like if you get back to the basics of like nature and learning to respect nature and work with nature and work hard, like those are really the only fundamental values people should be building on because all the learning will come naturally through that. Like I teach sounds while I'm gardening with Luke. Like it's something you do while you're like you incorporate it in. It's not so much like it should be sit here, learn your sounds. like you should be working your physical body and helping the world like in your immediate environment, and then be doing all of the math stuff, all of the language stuff while you're doing that. So that's like in my ideal world, that's how life would be. It'd be like more of like a homeschool sort of situation, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay,
I don't
so
know.
you mentioned like working your physical body and all of that stuff too. So I've noticed that there's a trend since the lockdown happened and everyone's kind of
Hmm.
forced to stay at home, where people were, just doing more things that was like better for their like physical body in the sense of
Yeah.
like, baking more banana bread or like using those fitness videos because, you
Yeah.
never know when you want to have
Yeah.
that glow up after pandemic or something, whatever the intentions may be. But yeah, so I mean, and with that too, with that because I think hippie culture too is sort of making a comeback in the sense of like personal wellness and just like also personal wellness going into like social wellness and social ideas
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I just want to know how you have personally felt or dealt with the change of priorities our country is facing right now, and your opinion of how people as a whole are dealing with this new identity that we're sort of trying to grapple with.
I feel like it's so polarized. Like I I'm in a bubble. I know I'm in a bubble because I have been like on the side that's like, all right, we're locked down. I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to like garden. I'm going to run. I'm going to be healthy in every sense of the world, like word that I can be, where it doesn't like hurt anyone else. But I know that there's like the other extreme during this time. During this time, there are people like in my own family who have literally taken the other side, and they are not like, they just feel so badly about the situation. They need to feed that like self, like that's it's sad. It's sad because it's like this is a very difficult time, but they basically are feeding into that. They're wallowing, and that's what I see. I see two polar opposites right now, but I do see like that the good side, the lighter side, is trying to just be light for everyone. That's just my take on it. And I'm trying to spread this love and goodness to everyone in my circle so they can keep spreading the love and goodness in their circles. And hopefully, because you're right, the hippie culture totally is coming back. And we always had this prejudice of like, oh God, those hippies are going to steal you and kill you or who knows what, right? But that's actually not what it's really about. It's really about just trying to understand a more natural way of living that's not harmful to anything, including us, our planet, our health, definitely, like with the coronavirus, everything. I don't know.
Yeah, so how have you personally like I mean, you mentioned gardening and things like that, but like have you done
Oh,
anything else like with your like
yeah,
just I guess like not only just like your physical health because I know that you've started working out a lot more. That was like the one thing.
that's triggered it, honestly.
Mhm.
Because we had nothing else to do, we were like, we're at least going to walk around like the park. Like we weren't allowed to sit at the park, and there was no one really out, but we'd still leave and walk around the park, which is like the 3.5 miles every day. And then we started running every day. And then out of that, I think like I was able to start, like I hadn't journaled in maybe 12 years. And so I was like looking at my old journals, and I was like, you know what, this was something very like beneficial to me, like taking the time to be introspective and reflect on just my own actions, like what I do every day and how I go about spreading who I am. So I've been journaling so much more, which is really, really helpful. But I don't think I would have done that if I hadn't started running, because running gave me that like energy to like get out of bed and not just like sit on my phone and watch TV and look for the next thing to watch. And reading, like I hadn't had this much time to read books like I did ever. I would maybe read one book a month before because I had to read it maybe 2 nights a week, 3 nights a week when I was relaxing before bed. But now I have all this time, and I've gone through like 10 books just this like past 2 weeks. It's really nice. Those are like the two best things for my health, I think.
Reading and working out, good for your
And
brain,
yeah,
good for your
journaling too.
body, and journaling. Yeah. So you basically knock down the three pillars: body, mind, soul,
Whoa, who knew?
right? Well, you
That's
did, I
really well.
guess.
Well, I didn't know. I'm just trying to be productive with my time.
That's another thing too that I really find is interesting is how we've kind of changed what the word productive kind of means. Because
Mm,
before, the thing that I think that has the conversation that I see happening a lot more is just sort of like questioning the role of capitalism in our everyday day-to-day lives. And so now, because people can't go to work, right? So that concept of productivity sort of dissipates because like, okay, well, I'm not
yeah.
going to work, I'm not making money, so how am I being
Hmm.
productive? So I really like that you said that you're being productive by just taking care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, in whatever way that you found worked for you.
Yeah.
And that is also considered being productive.
I heard like self care before. Like we all heard it. It was like ever since we heard like, that whole Parks and Rec episode of like treat yourself. Like we were all like, oh yeah, like we definitely have to treat ourselves and like take care of ourselves and whatever that means. But I don't think any of us ever really took it seriously enough, like to really have enough time to figure out what that meant and then to feel what actual self care feels like and what can come out of that. Because, like, I guess that's basically just self care. Like, we should be doing that all the time,
Do you feel like
right?
the term self-care maybe has been distorted in a bit,
Yeah,
like in a way?
100%. In a negative way because I was like self care. Like I don't have time to take a bath right now and light a candle and like you know what I mean. But I really feel like I didn't understand what self care really meant.
Yeah, because I think in that show, their concept, I mean, I love that scene, treat yourself,
Yeah,
but
yeah, me too.
Donna and Tommy, like their concept of self-care is more, I guess, pampering the self, you know. Yeah, and it is all about the money too,
Yeah,
right?
buying stuff. They just
Yeah,
bought whatever they wanted.
yeah, which circles back, I think, too, because I really hate this idea of like
Me too.
taking care of yourself means buying shit for yourself. Like I don't understand. I mean, I guess I like it's from years and years of just like that mantra being pushed down onto you, right? Like you're not going to be happy until you have the biggest house, the nicest
Mhm.
car, the
Mhm.
sexiest significant other, spouse, whatever you call it, you know what I mean? Just like the very quintessential American idea of what success means. So how would you say that you've like kind of redefined the word success for yourself? Or is this like something that you're just
Yeah.
continuing to develop as time goes on?
No, it used to be exactly what you said. That was like, especially like being born of like an as an immigrant family. Like you just that's the goal to have a home to live in, like something you can own and like you can feel safe knowing that it can never be taken from you. Like I guess that's like I talk about it all the time. It's like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs where you can't even move to the emotional level, which is towards the top, until your fundamental basic needs are met of shelter, food, clothing. And we're like in this in between. And now there's so many more people on the other end of the spectrum where they've had these needs met for so long that we're able to sit and realize that it's unfortunate that our families had to work through that because it was really hard and there was no time for emotional care or love. But and they did the best they can, of course. But I'm saying we have the luxury now of realizing, well, I feel like I've had the luxury of realizing I don't really even want to own a house. Like, even that concept, like, I don't want to own the land. I don't feel like that's a symbiotic relationship of me living on the earth. It's like me owning a piece of land and saying, this is mine. Like, even that is like a capitalist, like, conquering, like, sort of mentality that I think I'm really happy. I feel like there's been a little bit of a shift, especially in like the younger ones of us that are more like, I don't even want to own my car. I want to return it because I feel like that was a whole Ponzi scheme in and of itself. Like, I'd rather just ride my bike or walk. Like, I really feel like that's mine now. My goals are not so oriented towards let me buy a home that I can live in and let me have a family and do those sort of things. It's more about what can I contribute back to this earth that has given me so much. Because we don't need retail therapy. It's conditioned, exactly like you said. We're conditioned to enjoy shopping and mindlessly just feeling a reward for nothing. And it's bad. So I've tried to cut that out, and doing all these other things instead has given me more confidence in myself that I never would have gotten from buying a new dress that I could wear and then feel bad about when I get fat because I'm not exercising. It's a cycle. It's a cycle they just keep feeding into, and it's harmful. I think so. I'm happy that I think a lot of people are shying away from that, like especially with all the protests. I don't know if you've been seeing this. Everyone's talking about boycott Amazon now. It's like a real thing. Before everyone used to say, oh, whatever, but it's so convenient. People are still doing it, and now I see that there's like a shift happening of really trying to be conscientious of every decision that we're making.
But Amazon stocks have gone up like tremendously within the last few
Yeah.
months. I don't think that people are seriously, I mean, I think there's like a community of people that talk about
Mm.
it, right? But then
Mhm.
there's a community of people that actually take the action to do it. Because my old
Interesting.
roommate, I remember he used to have Amazon deliver every single week his groceries. Every single
Oh.
week there would be like bags of groceries every Saturday. And he was the kind of person that used to just, he worked in the tech industry, and he just sat in his room and just was there all the time and never left his room ever. And
Wow.
if he wasn't working, he was playing video games. You could hear it very loud, all of the video games that he was playing. So I think that it's like that is the struggle that we're having right now too, is how do we reach out to people that are still absorbed in that culture, because I think that majority of people are still feeling that way, and it's like we're trying to make that push, and we see like
Mhm. Mhm.
more like progressive candidates winning office, like seats in office. You see people having more popular beliefs of like, or universal basic income, and like
Mhm.
Medicare for all and stuff like that becoming more popular. But like obviously these conversations need to be happening
Yeah.
day in and day out, right? So how would you go about like talking to someone, that just isn't as maybe, no, it isn't even, I don't want to say self-aware, but isn't even trying to like make that move, because they are just like, I need to do this and this and this for myself.
It's so funny that you're asking that because I literally just had this conversation with Joel, and I was saying, I think if I had to simmer down what I've learned the most this pandemic, it comes to two things. And one is what is actually self care, right? That's like the generic, like, what do I really need to be a productive person and to have it translate outward? But the second one is like, how do I help other people? Like, and because I'm very against preaching and pushing beliefs onto other people, right? That's not something I've ever thought was the right way to do things. But as a teacher, you have to understand like how to share information without having it be pushed. And ever since like my first week of teaching, I never will forget. And it's been more apparent this pandemic because it's for some reason like there was a difference in my mind between kids and adults, but everyone just needs to be listened to. Like really, they need to be asked about their beliefs, what they think, what they feel, and what they live their like what their reality is, and to be listened to and asked about it. To really so not only am I getting a better understanding of them and who they are and what they live their life by, but they have to say it out loud. They have to formulate it into words, and they have to make it easy enough for somebody to understand so they're hearing it themselves. For me, that's the first step, because the minute that you force someone, it's not, that sounds rude to say, but like you're asking someone a question about like, oh, how do you feel about this, and they are required to formulate an answer about what they believe, they're required to think about it. So just by that alone, by trying to listen more actively and asking more actively instead of sharing our opinions, that's what I've been trying to do, is just sit back and listen. I'll let other people share what they want, because I already know now with all this like soul searching I've been doing, I have a deep understanding of what I believe. I don't need to talk about other people, but I do want to hear what other people believe and just try and understand why. So then you can work better from there.
That's actually like really insightful. Thank you for that. Like I have been kind of battling between like cancel culture. Like, it's not my responsibility to teach you.
Yeah.
Your
Mhm.
responsibility to take that action. But then I guess
Mhm.
you coming from the perspective of a teacher, it's like, okay, how do I facilitate this change? How do
Mhm.
I facilitate, because nobody's perfect. At the end of the day, we're all learning. We're all
Yeah.
trying to make our make our own understanding of this world, right?
Of course.
So it's important for us to be there for each other in the ways that we can. And I think you're absolutely right. Like, it starts with conversation, and that's where empathy and understanding starts to happen, is when we continue to have these conversations. And you really
Mhm.
start to see that with, like, in the wake of the protests against police brutality and white supremacy, a lot of people of color that are non-black people of color have been stepping up and
Exactly.
acknowledging their role in,
Mhm.
not being as anti-racist as they possibly could have been. And because of that, I've noticed that even in our personal conversations, right, like, we've had more in-depth look in our own selves, and then allowing that to kind of move forward to other people. That's also, I think, a form of self-care that the pandemic has really
Yeah.
allowed us to kind of, indulge in a little bit, is to have these difficult conversations. And just, I mean, I guess every generation has their own, like, right.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You have to watch The Politician. I know like you don't like to watch TV and like I know this whole thing, but I think so. It's like to me it's like another form of reading a book because it like displays all these different relationship ideas between generational like politics and like political thinking. So it's really like really a good show and I think you'd
Not
really love
sponsored,
it
by
because
the
it
way, you guys.
yeah, no.
But if you want to.
I just I really think it's important to like read those kind of like banned books and those like read things that are a little more it open your mind to these ideas that are a little more edgy. Definitely an edgy one because it's exactly what you're talking about. It's exactly the same thing. We need to bridge the gap. Ageism is a big gap that we've never really realized, and we know generations are different, but we don't piece together like our parents are a different generation than us. So we should just bridge the gap there. That's our own social justice we can be doing every day. It's like
Yeah,
I fight with my dad every day, and I need to be a better listener, and I've been not interrupting him and not talking, just listening. That's I feel I'm doing my duty. You know what I mean?
that's all they ever wanted.
Yeah,
My
exactly.
my Indian parents would be so happy if I just shut up to listen for a minute. um
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. So I mentioned earlier that we are seeing, like, more progressive platforms becoming more
Yeah.
mainstream. People are actually having, like, I mean, even Fox News to a certain degree are like, oh, okay, maybe Medicare for all is a good idea and things like that, which I just never thought would ever happen in my lifetime. But,
Never.
like, a system really has to be broken in order for people to start, like, coming together and working together and things like that. So,
Yeah.
just on your own personal ideas, what would you like to see implemented in our path forward, as we, because the pandemic's going to end at some point. We're not going to be in this weird limbo forever. So
I
when
hope
that
so.
does, what would you think is, like, the most important things for us to implement for our society to be better and just thriving?
This one I've always wanted since forever. I really feel like other countries are doing it better with like our work week is not ideal. Like, really, we see now how much more productive we are with more time off. And that's the biggest one because money, like, is irrelevant. We're going to be poor no matter what. We're not going to be millionaires. Like, that's the reality I've accepted. Like, that, and it doesn't even bring me happiness. So, what I really believe in is like giving more time to people that's not work, like working for money because there's so much other work we need to be doing, which are all the other things we've talked about. And that's the number one. And that includes, and that means it needs to be, our money needs to be supplemented with the resources that we need for free. So, but not really for free, but like we're working for that. You know what I
Through,
mean?
like,
Like we
taxes
need
and things?
yeah, through taxes and whatever. And honestly, just citizenship. I really feel like there's enough money, whatever money is, there's enough money to cover everything that needs to be covered. You know what I mean? Like we need healthcare for everyone. That shouldn't be extreme to say anymore. We need a universal basic income for every person so we can just live and not like have this problem of homelessness. Like that's really awful that people have to experience that just because of money. Um, and I really feel like the more you support people and help them, the better they will be. So to me, it just never made sense why that wasn't like resources weren't the priority. So I guess really that's the shift I'd like to see. And I don't want to say it because it's like sounds crazy to say, but I think it's like anti-capitalism, exactly what you're saying. Capitalism brings in so many problems. And I know it's through capitalism that we are where we are, so I shouldn't like excuse my language, I shouldn't talk shit on it, but like really though, now we're at a point where we don't need it anymore. We've now developed like as human beings who are always, top of the food chain and trying to be, cutting edge, we don't need capitalism like it is anymore. Because really what is it helping? It's not helping us at all. It's really not. Not anymore. It maybe was at a certain point, but I think we've passed that gap where now it's more harmful than helpful.
I really feel that capitalism was maybe necessary at some point for us to get to
Yeah.
the place that we are now. But
Yeah.
we are so intelligent as a species, and we are capable, and we have all of these resources and technology available to us that there's no excuse and no reason for why we cannot be shifting towards a different system. Maybe it's a system that doesn't even exist yet, but I think we're capable of formulating a system that would lead us to a better idea of
Yeah.
a utopia.
You worded it beautifully. That's exactly what it is. We should be smart enough to, right? Supposedly, if everyone's saying we're the greatest country in the world, right, and make America great again, well, then do it. We're smart enough. Somebody should outline something that's so out of our normal, good world and make it something amazing. Like we have every availability to us. Like literally, we do. And now that we have the time, that's why I'm like, I've accepted the reality that I'm not going to be president of the universe and save the whole world. But there is somebody out there that has the idea that can do it. You know what I mean? And I just like, how long do we have to
We all have a role to play in our society, and the sooner that we accept that what that role is, instead of like one, I think another insidious thing that capitalism does too is that it forces people to like have to be everything, right?
yeah,
It's a very like individualistic mentality of like, I need to be the breadwinner, I need to be the smartest, the richest, the best, as opposed to, I guess, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily like this analogy, but it's the closest thing that I can think of is just like that,
yeah,
like it takes a village to raise a child and stuff. So I think we all have our own strengths and weaknesses,
hmm
and we all have different talents that we can contribute. And I think that we need to highlight that more. And I mean, I
yeah.
can go on for days about like
No, you're right. You're 100% right.
general education in college. Like, I don't understand why we need that if you could just go to vocational school for what you actually like. Because wasn't that what was supposed to happen back in high school, middle school,
hmm
and elementary, like all of the gen ed and things like that? I don't know. But
So true.
anyway, so the last question, what advice would you give to people who are just starting to like think about, being more self-aware, wanting to walk this path of personal alignment and social responsibility? And what are things that anyone can do every day to make this world just a little bit better than it was yesterday?
I would say like literally walk. Like it sounds so dumb, but like if you put your phone away, right? Take out your headphones and you force yourself to walk, step outside of your door, wherever you're living, wherever you are, and walk around your community and really be like actively present and observe. There, like you literally, all you have to do is take a minute to be outside of your little bubble, your literal home bubble, and be observant. It doesn't need to be extreme observance, like, like in a classroom, like Montessori is all about observing and guiding. I'm talking about just look at the world around you, like your little personal world, like of your community, And if you do that, it's going to naturally spark something. It's going to naturally lead you down whatever path feels best and right for you. You're either going to see some homeless person and feel pushed to either think about that, go up to them, or even just question, right? Question. You're going to see some beautiful tree you never noticed before, and it's going to make you think about the planet and what we're doing to our, our whole climate crisis and what the part you're playing. You're going to see some families or some friends walking, and you're going to like think about what you would like to see in like a partner or in a friend, or what you'd like to feel in any sort of relationship. Like literally just getting outside, walking, and it's big because you have to walk. You can't be driving because obviously driving you need to be alert to your driving, and you can't bike because same thing, you need to walk, like literally walk around and just like look at things. And like the more we look at each other and like make eye contact with other people, like you're going to feel certain things. Like there's a reason we're so disconnected from each other, and our generation is like we spill all our words out online, every thought we have, but we lack intimacy. And it's because we lack intimacy. Like look, giving someone eye contact on the street, a random stranger, and saying, "Hey, good morning," like that's intimacy, and it'll make you feel a certain way when you do it. Like it sounds crazy, but like those small little things are like the first step, I think, to any sort of anything, because it's going to naturally lead to everything else.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Denise. I really enjoyed that conversation. It was so
I feel like every
enlightening.
conversation we have, it's the
Yes,
best,
I know. We always have the best conversations.
straight up. And it's 9 a.m. What the heck?
Oh my gosh, I know. That was very heavy for a 9 a.m. That's the show for today, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, Farhana. You can find me on Instagram, FarhanaAli_, and I'm posting new podcast episodes every single Monday. So I hope you guys check it out. And if you can, press like, subscribe, follow me on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And I will see you guys next week on Monday. Thank you so much and have a great one.